So, I mean, I guess this is
How many times have you watched a rising star get buried on an outside court while empty chairs fill center stage? Well, buckle up, because what happened in Dubai just flipped the tennis world upside down, and Martina Navratilova had plenty to say about it. A 20-year-old from the Philippines just sent shockwaves through the sport, and the 24 hours that followed? Pure chaos. Stick around to see how Eala made the tennis establishment panic and why Martina Navratilova called this moment bigger than just one match. Quick favor, if you're loving this tennis content, hit that subscribe button. Over 94% of viewers watch without subscribing. It costs nothing, but it helps Baseline Z bring you more stories like this. Already subscribed? You are awesome. Thanks for the support. Now back to the story that has everyone talking. Picture this: Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships 2026. The sun is blazing over the pristine courts, and tucked away on Court 3, far from the glitz and glamour of center court, a Filipino 20-year-old named Eala is about to pull off something nobody saw coming. Her opponent? Jasmine Paolini, world number 8, a player who has been eating top 10 competition for breakfast all season. The odds makers gave Eala almost no chance. The schedule is clearly agreed, because they dumped this match on an outer court like it was a qualifying round. But here's where it gets interesting. Within hours, that decision would spark a firestorm that would force the entire tennis world to pay attention. Eala didn't just beat Paolini, she demolished her. Straight sets, clinical precision, the kind of performance that makes you wonder if someone switched the rankings by accident. Imagine watching a player who is supposed to be the underdog, dictating play, painting lines, and making a top 10 star look completely lost. The crowd that actually managed to find Court 3 was going absolutely wild. Filipino flags waving, chants echoing, and social media already lighting up faster than you can say Grand Slam. But the real drama? That was just getting started. Because while Eala was busy making tennis history, Martina Navratilova was watching. And when Martina watches, she does not just observe, she analyzes, she questions, and when something doesn't sit right with her, she speaks up. And boy, did she have something to say about what happened next. Within an hour of Eala's victory, Twitter exploded, not just with celebration, but with outrage. Fans from Manila to Miami were asking the same question. Why was this match buried on Court 3? Why was a potential upset involving a player with massive global appeal treated like an afterthought? And that's when Martina Navratilova entered the chat. The 18-time Grand Slam champion, never one to mince words, pointed out what everyone was thinking, but the tennis establishment did not want to hear. This was not just about one match. This was about a system that consistently sidelines players from non-traditional tennis nations, no matter how talented they are, no matter how big their fan base is. Navratilova tweeted something that sent the tennis world into overdrive. She said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that talent and marketability should dictate court assignments, not tradition or geography. She called out the scheduling bias that has plagued women's tennis for years, the unspoken rule that players from Europe and North America get the prime slots while everyone else fights for scraps. And just like that, the conversation shifted from celebrating Eala's win to interrogating the entire structure of professional tennis. Now, let's talk about Eala for a second. This is not some random player who stumbled into a lucky win. This is a young woman who has been grinding for years, battling through the lower ranks, dealing with injuries, and representing a country that doesn't have the same tennis infrastructure as the traditional powerhouses. Eala is the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam title. Granted, it was in juniors, but still, that's historic. She's been on the radar for years, but getting recognition, that's been like pulling teeth. And here's the kicker. The Filipino diaspora is massive. We're talking millions of fans across the globe who would tune in to watch one of their own compete at the highest level. But the WTA, they've been sleeping on this gold mine. The 24 hours after Eala's win were absolute madness. Fans flooded social media demanding better treatment. Sports analysts started dissecting the scheduling decisions. Sponsors began circling, realizing they had missed out on a marketing opportunity. And the WTA, well, they scrambled to do damage control. Suddenly, Eala's quarterfinal match against Gauff got bumped to center court. Funny how that works, right? It took a viral outrage and a tennis legend calling him out for the powers that be to realize, oh wait, maybe we should actually showcase this incredible talent. But let's rewind for a second. How do we even get here? Eala's journey is the kind of story Hollywood would struggle to script. Born in Manila, she moved halfway across the world to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain when she was just a kid. Think about that. Leaving your family, your culture, everything familiar to chase a dream in a sport that has historically been dominated by wealthy nations with century-old tennis traditions. She trained alongside some of the best young players in the world, grinding day in and day out, knowing that every match, every practice session could be the difference between making it and fading into obscurity. And she did make it. Slowly but surely, she climbed the ranks. She won titles on the ITF circuit. She broke into the top 200, then the top 150. Every step forward was a battle, not just against opponents, but against a system that didn't seem designed for someone like her to succeed. And yet, she kept going, because that's what champions do. They don't wait for permission, they take what's theirs. Fast forward to Dubai, Eala walks onto court 3, knowing the world is not watching, knowing that even if she pulls off the upset of the tournament, it might not get the attention it deserves. But she doesn't care. She's there to win, and win she does. Paolini, a player who had been on fire all season, looked completely rattled. Eala's forehand was a weapon, her movement was sharp, her mental game unshakable. Set 1, Eala takes it 6-4. Set 2, she closes it out 6-3. Game, set, match. Upset of the year candidate right there. But here's where the story gets even juicier. The moment that match ended, the tennis world had a choice. Celebrate the underdog, amplify her story, and give her the platform she earned, or do what they've always done. Downplay it, bury the highlights, and move on to the next match featuring a more marketable name. And for about an hour, it looked like they were going with option 2, until Martina Navratilova decided she had seen enough. Martina is not just a legend, she's a truth teller. She's been fighting for equity in tennis since before most of us were born. Equal prize money, better working conditions, respect for players regardless of where they come from. So when she saw Eala's match get the outer court treatment, she knew exactly what was happening, and she was not about to let it slide. Her tweets did not just call out the scheduling, they called out the culture, the idea that certain players are more valuable than others, not because of their talent, but because of their passport. And the internet lost its mind. Filipino fans who had been starving for representation on the biggest stages flooded timelines with clips of Eala's best shots. Tennis analysts who had never mentioned her name before suddenly had hot takes ready to go. Sponsors began doing the math, realizing that ignoring a market of over 100 million Filipinos was, well, bad business. And the WTA, caught completely off guard, had to scramble to respond.
Within 12 hours, the narrative had shifted. Eala was no longer just the girl who beat Paolini. She was a symbol of everything wrong with how tennis treats players from non-traditional nations, a symbol of untapped potential, both on the court and in terms of marketability, and a symbol of why Martina Navratilova, even decades after retiring, is still one of the most important voices in the sport. Now, let's be real. Eala's next match against Gauff did not go the way Filipino fans hoped. Gauff, the world number 3 and a legitimate superstar, was too much. Eala fought hard, but Gauff's experience and firepower won out. Straight sets loss, tournament over. But here is the thing. That loss did not erase what Eala accomplished. If anything, it validated the entire point Navratilova and the fans were making. Eala belonged on that stage. She earned it. And the fact that it took a social media uprising to get her there, that is the problem. because this is not just about Eala. This is about every player who has been overlooked because they do not fit the mold. Every athlete from Asia, Africa, South America who had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. Every fan base that gets ignored because the sport's decision-makers are stuck in the past, assuming that tennis audiences only care about players from the usual suspects. The 24 hours after Eala's win proved that assumption wrong, dead wrong. The numbers do not lie. Eala's match highlights got millions of views. Her social media following exploded. Filipinos who had never watched tennis before tuned in to see one of their own compete at the highest level. Brands that had never considered tennis sponsorships suddenly saw an opportunity. And the WTA, they got a wake-up call. Talent and star power are not exclusive to traditional tennis nations, and if they keep ignoring that, someone else will capitalize. Martina Navratilova summed it up perfectly in a follow-up interview. She said something along the lines of, "We cannot keep pretending that geography determines greatness. The sport is global now. The audiences are global. And if the people running tennis cannot see that, they're going to lose the next generation of fans." And she's right, because the fans showed up for Eala. They demanded better. And for one brief, glorious moment, they got it. So what happens next? For Eala, this is just the beginning. She has proven she can compete with the best. She has shown that she can handle the pressure, the spotlight, and the expectations of an entire nation. The question is, will the tennis world give her the opportunities she deserves? Will tournaments schedule her matches where fans can actually watch? Will sponsors invest in her potential? Or will this be another flash in the pan, another talented player who gets buried because the system is not designed for her to succeed? If the last 24 hours taught us anything, it is that fans have power. They can force change, they can demand equity, and they can make sure that players like Eala do not get lost in the shuffle. But it should not take a viral outrage every single time. The WTA, the tournament organizers, the broadcasters, they all need to do better. They need to recognize that the sport is bigger than their comfort zone, and they need to stop punishing players for having the audacity to be great while coming from somewhere unexpected. In the end, Eala did not just win a match in Dubai. She started a conversation about who gets opportunities, who gets visibility, and who gets to define what a tennis star looks like. Martina Navratilova amplified that conversation, using her platform to demand better. And the fans made it impossible to ignore. That is what 24 hours of chaos can do. That is what happens when talent meets advocacy, meets a fed-up audience ready for change. So, the next time you see a match buried on an outer court, ask yourself why. Ask who decided that match was not worth center stage. And ask what we are missing because the people in charge are too stuck in their ways to see what is right in front of them. Because if Eala taught us anything, it is that greatness doesn't wait for permission. It just shows up and takes over. And sometimes, just sometimes, the world has no choice but to pay attention.